Hey, hi, and howdy, sweet friends. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. My name is Courtney. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, and my channel focuses on food and kitchen-related content. I do a lot of cooking videos and grocery hauls every single week, so if that is the content that you love, make sure you stick around, hit the subscribe button, and drop me a comment below. This week I've got 4 super delicious meals. Oh my gosh, every one of these was a win. My family adored them. Some of them I have made a couple of times before, some of them not so much, but every single one of these meals uses chicken thighs. Groceries are super expensive right now. Hopefully good news says that they should be coming down in 2024, but they're still super expensive right now, and chicken thighs are so affordable. I wanted to focus on 4 easy, quick, delicious, cost-effective meals that will fill your belly and make your family smile. So we're going to start off with this Mississippi chicken skillet meal. So I've got a couple of potatoes there. I probably cubed up more potatoes than necessary. I was just using up what I had left, which was they were some russet potatoes, so they were pretty good sized. I probably could have used a lot less, but I just threw them in a skillet with some garlic oil. You could do regular oil. And then I put just about a 1/4 cup of water or so on them, and I popped the lid on, and then I let them just kind of steam in there for about 8 minutes, and they get pretty soft pretty quickly. Once that had happened, I went ahead and cubed up my chicken thighs and tossed them right in the skillet with a little bit more of that garlic oil. Again, feel free to use butter or regular oil, whatever you have. I always have garlic oil on hand because I do make confit garlic. It's like my favorite kitchen condiment, and I do have the recipe for that linked down below if you're interested. It's super easy, and it's like my favorite thing. It's so good. If you like roasted garlic, it's essentially the same thing, but you get the garlic and you get the oil. Anyway, I went ahead and tossed my chicken right on in the skillet with the potatoes and the garlic oil, and now I'm throwing in a couple of tablespoons of ranch seasoning mix and a couple of tablespoons of au jus gravy mix. Now I make my own mixes, but if you do not do that, then you can just pour in a packet of each. You could probably even get by with half a packet if you want to stretch things a little bit further. I do make my own seasonings, and I have made a video about that, so I will also link that video down below so you guys can make your own at home, save a little bit of money. They're super easy and very affordable. So once I put all the seasonings in there, I went ahead and added about a half a cup of water into the skillet because the gravy mix will form a sauce. So I went ahead and added that in there, and we're just going to let that simmer and cook for about 5 to 7 minutes until your chicken thighs are cooked through, which mine were. And now I'm adding in my pepperoncinis, just like if you were making Mississippi chicken in your slow cooker. Pretty much the same thing. You can even toss in some butter here at the end if you want to, just to make it extra yummy and delicious. But I gotta tell you guys, those pepperoncinis are what do it for us. They are so fabulous. And you can see this is saucy and it's thick and it's so good. And I just served it over rice with just a can of peas on the side, but this was amazing and it was so good and it's so cheap and easy to make. All right, cheesy chicken and rice. I've made this before on my channel. This goes by a number of different names all across YouTube. It's a pretty popular dish. Essentially, it's just some chicken on top of some Mexican rice with some queso on top. We're gonna start off by making some homemade Spanish rice. I like to think mine's kind of a traditional recipe. I do live down in Texas if you're new here, and this is just the way I've learned to make it over the years. I've seen a lot of people that make it this way. So I started off with bacon grease. You could always do butter or oil, whatever you have. I typically have bacon grease in my fridge, and when I remember that it's there, I try to use it up and utilize it. So I threw that in the skillet, and then I went ahead and added in some onion. I just diced up a small onion. If you got big ones, you might just want to do like half of an onion. And I'm gonna let that cook in that bacon grease for a couple of minutes so the onion starts to get soft and translucent. Then I'm going to go ahead and rinse a 1.5 cups of rice. My preference is jasmine rice, but you can use whatever you have. I rinse it really, really well, and then I just toss it in here with the bacon grease and the onion, and we're gonna let that kind of stir fry for a few minutes. You do wanna stay on top of it and keep it moving because it will burn, but toasting the rice and getting the oil all around it is really gonna help you have a nice fluffy rice that doesn't stick together at the end. It really makes a difference. So once the rice has been able to toast for a couple of minutes, I could see it had started to get just a little bit of color. I went ahead and tossed in some of my confit garlic. At this point, if you have garlic powder, that's fine. If you have fresh garlic, that's great too. Any of it works the same. Like I said, this is just my favorite condiment, so this is what I always use. But I went ahead and tossed it in. I'm stirring it around, just kind of breaking it up a little bit and letting it cook with the rice for a couple of minutes. And next we're going to go ahead and add in our water. So I've got a 1.5 cups of dry rice that I rinsed. So I'm going to add 2 and 3/4 cup of water. Sometimes I can get by with 2.5, but I feel like the best results are always 2 3/4 cup. I know that typically it's like a cup of rice to 2 cups of water, but I'm going to tell you, for me, I found that that is just a little bit too much water, and it waterlogs the rice and kind of tends to make it gooey sometimes. So if I'm going to do a 1.5 cups of rice, I'm going to do 2.5 to 2 3/4 cup of water. To that, I added in a tablespoon of tomato bouillon and a teaspoon of chicken bouillon. And then I'm seasoning it with some pepper, and I threw some paprika in there as well. I am not adding any salt because those bouillons have a lot of salt in them, so you don't really have to add any more. When you're done cooking it and you taste of it, if you want some more salt, that's great, but I would not add any until you've finished cooking it and you can taste it, just because it can get super salty really easily. Next, I've got my chicken thighs laid out. I only had 3. If you watched my grocery haul, the stores were kind of sold out of chicken thighs last week, which was rather unfortunate. So I'm kind of stretching what I had because I went to another store and I still wasn't able to get any. I finally eventually was, so I'm able to make all of my meals this week, but I did kind of have to stretch my chicken a little bit more than I planned. So I've got 3 chicken thighs and I'm seasoning them. I like to use salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, smoked paprika, and sometimes I put some chili powder on there. But you can kind of season them in whatever way you want. Maybe you have a seasoning blend that you love. Maybe you just want to put taco seasoning on them. I'm not a fan of taco seasoning, so that is why I'm not doing that. These flavors blended together do make like a nice kind of Mexican flavor, but I just don't really care for taco seasoning. I do like to season my chicken really, really well. Chicken can be bland if you're not careful, and it can handle a lot of seasoning. So I am pretty heavy-handed. I season both sides and I place it in a skillet. I used bacon grease again, but you can use oil, butter, whatever you have. And I like to really sear both sides of the chicken. These chicken thighs aren't too terribly thick, so they don't take long to cook, but I can get some really good color on them. Then I just dice them up and put them on top of some rice with some queso. You can use the stuff from the store in the jar. I happen to be out near our favorite Mexican restaurant, so I grabbed their queso while I was out, but any kind of queso, or you could just melt some regular shredded cheese on top, and that's beautiful too. I also just serve it with beans on the side. I had some seasoned black beans in a can that were fabulous. All right, we're gonna make some buffalo chicken sandwiches. I love buffalo chicken, and I was gonna do this a little bit differently, but then I saw somebody make chicken like this on YouTube the night before I cooked this. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm going to start out by kind of brining my chicken in buttermilk. I don't have buttermilk on hand. It's something I rarely have in my kitchen. But I do have milk and I do have acid, and that is how you make buttermilk. Usually you'll see that it's lemon juice or vinegar in milk. But for buffalo chicken, we're going to be using some hot sauce, and my recommendation would be Frank's. It is a vinegar-based sauce, so it will make buttermilk for you. So I just add that and some Worcestershire sauce and garlic powder straight to some milk. We've got some seasoned buttermilk, and I let the chicken brine for like an hour or so. You can let it go all day. Whatever kind of time frame you have is perfect. If you don't want it to be spicy, you can also just use pickle juice in there, like dill pickle juice, and you'll have some really nicely flavored chicken. Totally up to you. Now, for the thing that I'm going to be changing, it's going to be how I batter the chicken. This reminds me of a tempura batter more than like a traditional batter, but it was really good and there was a ton of flavor in here. So I'm going to season my flour first. I've got about 1.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour, and I'm throwing in my favorite seasonings, which would be like paprika and chili powder and garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and I threw in a little bit of thyme because I have heard that that's really good in a fried chicken batter. So I went and tossed it in, and I mean, this tasted fabulous, so I can't complain. I pulled the chicken out of the buttermilk, and then I just dipped it in the flour, and then we're going to use some of our buttermilk and some water to kind of make a batter that we're going to dip the chicken in. Again, the flour is going to kind of help the batter stick to the chicken because the chicken is wet. You do need something dry for a liquid batter to adhere to. You could just use straight water, but I saw somebody using their buttermilk marinade, and I thought, well, I'm going to give it a shot. We are cooking this, so it is safe. We're not going to be using this in any way that it's raw, so it's perfectly okay to use it to make your batter. I just stirred a little bit in. I added a little bit more, and it was still really thick, but I didn't want this to be like too buttermilky. I'm not a huge fan of buttermilk as it is, so I didn't want it to be too overpowering. So I added in some more of my Frank's hot sauce for that really good buffalo flavor. And when it wasn't quite as liquidy as I wanted it to be, I threw in some cold water. You could, like I said, you could do all cold water if you wanted to, and that would be great as well. Really is up to you. I want this to be a nice batter, a little bit thinner than pancake batter. You want it to stick to the chicken, but we don't want it to be like super thick. And we're just going to dip our chicken thighs in there and make sure and really, really shake off the excess. We don't want like a really thick breading on the outside. We just want it to kind of coat it like a tempura batter would. You can throw some cornstarch in here as well if you want it to be a little lighter and crispier. I just used the flour I had on hand. It was cheap and easy, and this meal was cheap and easy. Once I had that done, I just had a little bit of vegetable oil in my skillet, and I had been heating it up while I was battering the chicken. So I just tossed it right on in the skillet. I had 4 chicken thighs to throw in there tonight, and I cooked it until it was golden brown and the chicken registered at 165 degrees or more internally with my thermometer, and then I knew it was done. So I'm just going to assemble some sandwiches. You can use the dressing of your choice. Most of my household likes ranch, but I am a blue cheese gal when it comes to buffalo anything. I love blue cheese. For this sandwich, I'm making it for my oldest son, so I threw on some ranch dressing. That's one of his favorites. And then you can put on whatever veggies you want. On this night, I had lettuce and pickles. I meant to slice up some tomatoes, but I had forgotten, and I thought, well, it's fine, no big deal. And nobody complained, so I think it was okay. But I do think like lettuces and tomatoes are great on here. You can put cheese on if you want to. We did not. And there's your sandwich, and I just cooked some tater tots in the air fryer. And this was really easy to make because that chicken fries very, very quickly, but it was so, so good. All right, so the last meal is Peruvian chicken, and this one is definitely a household favorite. I've made this before. The first time I grilled it, and this night we're going to be air frying it, which is what I did last time. We're going to start out by marinating the chicken, so I've got some chicken thighs in there. I really want to say I have 4 of them in there. It might just be 3 though. To that, I'm adding garlic oil, but if you don't have garlic oil, you're going to want to add in both olive oil or avocado oil and garlic or garlic powder. You're also going to want to add in some soy sauce, lime juice, cumin, paprika, oregano, and pepper. That's it for our marinade, and you can let this sit for a while. I've let it go for a whole solid 8 or 9 hours. On this particular day, it only went about 4 or 5, and it was still wonderful. So work with the time frame you have. My advice would be, like, if you're going to work for the day, try to toss it in before you leave in the morning because it's really quick to throw together. And that way it's had tons of time to really soak up all that flavor while you're gone. And then I just cooked this in the air fryer, which I did forget to film, but I just lay them on my little fryer basket for my air fryer. I make sure and spray it so it doesn't stick. And I do the chicken thighs at 400 degrees for 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how thick they are. These are thin, so I only did 7. Flip them over, do another 7, and they are done. And they are so, so good. I'll show you a clip of those in just a second. So while that was marinating and stuff, I wanted to go ahead and move on to the next step, which there's always a creamy green sauce that goes with this. This creamy green sauce is addicting, y'all. I mean, like, we can just dip chips in it. It's so fabulous. So we're going to make that now and keep this recipe. I'm linking it down below. You can serve this, like I said, as a dip. So good. We're going to put in some plain yogurt and a little bit of mayonnaise. To that, the recipe calls for jalapenos, but I had some poblano peppers, which are my favorite because I could just eat them raw. And I ended up just going ahead and using 2 poblano peppers. I also have some cilantro. And then I had some green onions in my fridge, so I went ahead and threw them in here. That's not in the recipe, but they certainly did not hurt. The sauce, like I said, fabulous. We're still finishing it off with chips and dip tonight. It is so good. But I tossed that right into my food processor. Some of my confit garlic, if you've got regular garlic, that is great as well, or use some garlic powder just to get that flavor in there. And then some lime juice and a little bit of salt and pepper. And of course it calls for some olive oil, but I'm using my garlic oil just because it's so good. It's got so much flavor to it. And I'm linking the recipe for that down below. Don't forget if you're interested, so it will be in the description box. I just roll this around in my food processor till it's creamy and delicious like that. So good. It's like got such a fresh flavor. It's wonderful. There's the chicken right out of the air fryer, and it looks grilled. It's so fabulous in the air fryer. I just love it, and it doesn't take very much time at all. It's so simple to do. I just kind of slice it up and serve it with the sauce on top. I had some ranch style beans in my pantry and some urban garlic or urban butter rice in my pantry as well. But that was dinner. Anyway, those were the meals for this week, all with chicken thighs, all budget friendly, and all so good. I will list or link all the recipes down below so you guys can make these at home. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you for joining me here, and stick around. I've got another video coming out tomorrow. It's a holiday related video. I'll see you guys there.